Welcome back to the Universe of Tech Hub. In this tutorial, we will learn about React.js. First, React.js was invented by Facebook developers. It is a component-based architecture. React is provides the features to break down the UI into a smaller self-contained component. It is a self-contained components. Each component can have its own state and props. This is React.js. Next, we will learn about what is React. What is React? React is a JavaScript library. It developed by Facebook for building a user interface (UI), specifically for single page applications. It allows the developers to create a reusable UI components to efficiently update and render when the underlying data changes. This is what is React. Next, we move to the what are the prerequisites for React. The prerequisites for React is like for before we learn React, we need to learn HTML and CSS, like familiarity with the HTML structures and basic tags, and understanding how CSS works for styling a web pages, a knowledge of responsive design concepts. It is helpful for in HTML, CSS. Next, and also we already learned JavaScript fundamentals, data types, loops, conditional statements, variables, knowledge of functions, including arrow functions, and ES6 features like let, const, where, like that, and template literals, instructing assignment, spread rest operators, modules like important imports and exports and DOM manipulations, understanding how the document object model works, and familiarities with querying, updating elements using a JavaScript. These are all the prerequisites. One more is like JavaScript concepts specific to React, like ES6 class, optional but helpful for understanding class components and event handling in JavaScript, promises and async await for asynchronous programming, and array methods like map, filters, reduce. These are as the array methods and understanding this keyword and how it works. And another one is Node.js and npm and or npm yarn, basic knowledge of Node.js for setting up the development environment, familiarity with npm or yarn for installing the packages and managing dependencies, and also have a knowledge of version control with Git, like clone, commit, push, pull. Knowledge of GitHub or any other Git based platform is helpful for this, and basic understanding of JSON. JSON is used for data exchange in web application, and React often works with API returning JSON. The optional skills like JavaScript frameworks, some familiarity with the frameworks like jQuery or Angular can be bonus, and also TypeScript. If you plan to work on projects where React is used with TypeScript, like tools, you should install code editor like Visual Studio Code and Node.js, Node package, npm install npm, and browser developer tool like for debugging. These are all the prerequisites for React. Next, we move to the virtual DOM. What is virtual DOM? React is maintains a lightweight representation of the actual document object model in memory. When changes occur, React is efficiently updates only the necessary parts of the DOM. Like it improves the performance, which updates only the necessary parts of the actual DOM, improving the performance. Next, we move on to the how does React work? The React is a building a blocks of components. Think of a website as Lego structures. Each piece, button, header, form, etc. is a component. In React, you write these components as a JavaScript functions or classes, and they generate small parts of the UI. The next is the blueprint JSX. React allows you to write a HTML like a code inside the JavaScript using a JSX. So that is the reason why we set a .jsx extension for this React. React allows you to write a HTML like a code inside the JavaScript using a JSX. Imagine writing the instructions like a build a button that says click me in a simple readable way. This is the example for print of JSX. Next, in the behind the scene of virtual DOM, a normal web page uses the DOM, document object model, which is like a tree showing all parts of the web page. React creates a virtual DOM, a copy of the actual DOM in memory. Whenever you make changes, React compares the new virtual DOM with the old one, figures out the smallest update needed, and applies them to the real DOM. This process is called a reconciliation, and it makes React very fast. Next one is dynamic data like state and props. State, think of it as a component's private notebook. It tracks things that can change. Example, counter value like that. Next one is props. Imagine you are sending an instruction to a child component like a telling a button what text to display like that. This is the props thing. They together they allow React components to be dynamic and reusable. Next one is user interactions. We use the events. React listens for user actions like clicks, typing, or scrolling. When something happens, it updates the component states and React renders only the parts that need to change. Next, bringing everything together, React and browser. When you use React, you create a structure of components in code. React translates these structures into HTML and updates the web page dynamically. When something changes, the result a fast, smooth, and responsive UI for the user. This is all about the how does React works. This is the actual DOM. This is the old DOM. It compares the actual and old DOM. This is for the new DOM, new virtual DOM, and this for the new actual DOM. Next, we move on to the what are all the features of React. Coming into the features of React, like what to tell? The features of React is it is a component based architecture. React just breaks the UI into a reusable self-contained pieces called a components. Each component manages its own logic and rendering, making the code modular and easier to maintain. This is what component based architecture. Next, it is a virtual DOM. React uses a lightweight copy of the actual DOM. It's called a virtual DOM to optimize the updates. Changes are applied to the virtual DOM first, and React determines the minimal updates needed for the actual DOM, improving the performance. It is a declarative UI. Developers describe what the UI should look like, and React take care of updating it efficiently when the data changes. This makes the code more predictable and easier to debug. This is a JSX, JavaScript XML. The extension of the React is JSX. Like JSX allows the developers to write HTML like a code directly in JavaScript. This makes the code more readable and easier to write compared to the traditional JavaScript. Like it is a one way of data binding. React follows the unidirectional one way data flow. Like this means data flows from parent to child components via props, ensuring better control and debugging. This is a state management. React uses a state to handle the dynamic data within the components. State changes trigger the trigger React to re-render the affected parts of the UI. Next, React hooks. Hooks like a use states and use effect. It allows the functional components to manage the states and side effects, eliminating the need for classes and components in many cases. And the other one is React Router. React Router is a library that enables the navigation and routing within the React application, making a single page apps. It feel like a multi-page applications. Next one is performance optimization. Features like a virtual DOM, code splitting, and lazy loading help React deliver high performance for complex applications. It is a cross-platform development. React can be used for mobile development with React Native, enabling a developers to build a native apps for iOS and Android using a React principles like that. It is a community and support. React has a large community, extensive documentations and support, making it easy for developers to find a solution and resources. These are all about the features of React. Next, we move on to the what are the React JS lifecycle. Coming into the React JS lifecycle, the first phase is initialization. Next one is mounting, updation, and unmounting. This is what React JS lifecycle. First, like this is like setting up your room before moving in. Your prepare everything you need, like get a derived state from props. Think of this as a checking if you need to change anything based on what you brought with your props. Like this is when you actually put your furniture in the room, displaying your components like that. The component did mount. Now that everything is set up, you can start using your room like fetching the data or setting up things like that. Next one is changing. Changing means updating. Updating means again you check if you need to change anything based on new stuff that comes in like this. Should component update? This is like deciding if you want to rearrange your furniture or not. If you don't want to change, you can skip it like this. If you decided to change things, you rearrange your furniture, re-render the component, get snapshot before update. Just before you change things, you take a quick picture of how it looks, like saving the scroll position. The component did update. After you have rearranged, you can do some follow-up tasks like fetching new data and based on the changes like this. Next, moving out, unmounting. This is what called unmounting. The component will unmount before you leave the room. You clean up and take everything you with you, like removing event listener or timers like this. Handling a problems, error handling in this. Something goes wrong while you are in the room, you can catch that error and handle it like showing a friendly error message. Functional components. With the introduction of hooks, you can manage these lifecycle events in functional components using a use effect hook. Startup use effect to run the code when the components first appears. Use effect with the specific items to run the code when those items change. You can return a cleanup function in use effect to tidy up before the component is removed. Like in the mounting phase, in which a component is being created and inserted into the DOM. The component being created and inserted into the DOM. The constructor colored when the component is initialized. You can set the initial state and binds method here. Next, invoked right before rendering, both on the initial mount and the subsequent updates. It allows you to update the state based on props. The only required method in a class component, it returns the JSX to rendered. The component did mount, invoked immediately after a component is mounted. This is a good place to initiate API calls or set up subscriptions like that. Next one is updating. The phase in which component is being re-rendered as a result of changes to either its a props or state. Same as doing a mounting. It can be used to update state based on props. It allows you to control whether a component should re-render or not. It returns a boolean. It called again to re-render the components. Invoked right before the most recently rendered outputs is committed to the DOM. It allows you to capture some information like scroll position from the DOM before it changes. The next one is component update invoked immediately after updating occurs. This is a good place to perform network requests based on previous props or state. Next one is unmounting. The phase in which a unmounting removed from the DOM. The component is being removed from the DOM. The component will unmount invoked immediately before a component is unmounted and destroyed. This is where you can clean up any subscription or timers like that. Next one is error handling. React also provides a life cycles method for error handling. The component it catch invoked when an error is thrown in a descendant component. It allows you to handle the error gracefully. Next, get derived state from error. Invoked when an error is thrown, it allows you to update the state to display a fallback UI. This is all about React.js lifecycle. This is all about React. If you like this video, don't forget to subscribe, like, share, and comment in this video. Thank you for watching.